everybody to our November meeting of the Faculty Senate. Like I said, Misty is on a campus tour with her daughter, and she's left it to me and Jason to go through this agenda. So I do have my chat up. If there's anything that you want to stop me on, either throw your hand up or throw it in the chat right quick, and I'll try to get to it, or holler at me and tell me to stop or something. Okay. But we're going to start it with Jason telling us about the Chancellor Provost updates.
Hello there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Coming through. Beautiful. Okay, I've got some notes here. I'll pull this up real fast here. Um, we did meet with Dr. Wallace and Dr. King mid-October here. And they had quite a few updates for us inside here. So I'm going to walk you through kind of the big points of that inside. I'll try to get through as quick as I can with this stuff. So first on the list is he did inform us that the fact that state authorities are kind of looking into DEI compliance and making sure that all schools are complying with state laws and things like that. They're looking for things like DEI training and people going to conferences like that, hiring practices. And basically, if we're in violation, we'll get reported, and that could be bad for us, it turns out. So him, the cabinet, the board are all looking very seriously and making sure that we're in compliance with all of that currently to make sure we don't get kind of flagged for that. And they've done a pretty good job being on top of that. So I don't think that's going to, or he doesn't think that's going to be a problem for us moving forward inside here. So, second item, he brought up SB Senate Bill 12. This is actually primarily a K through 12 bill, basically. However, because we do teach dual credit, there is some concern that it might bleed over a little bit. Basically, we have not gotten any complaints just yet. Other schools have. Basically, what this Senate Bill 12 says is, or one of the pieces of it at the very least, is the fact that they don't want any kind of DEI or gender studies talked about in the K through 12 sort of realm. But since we're actually teaching college courses, it seems like we're kind of protected with that. But once again, it's something they're keeping an eye on and looking at and kind of making sure that we don't get ourselves in trouble in some form or fashion. If anybody that's teaching dual credit does have any issues with this at all, they get reported to them or anything else, feel free to let your division deans and division chairs and deans know and everything else, and we can look into that as needed at that point. They did also address the kids in classrooms issues. One of the things that was brought up was the fact that this is or could be an insurance liability. It can also be just a distraction in the classroom. One of the things that they were very clear about is really we're not supposed to have anything other than registered students in all of our classes. This does include parents, siblings. So if someone wants to step in and take notes for a student, that's not really allowed at this point. One of the things that I thought was interesting, or that he thought was interesting actually, that was brought forward is we are currently allowed to ask for student ID. So if we have a student come to our class that we don't believe is actually in our class, we can ask for a student ID. However, police and campus security don't have that same right. So anyway, just something that's a bit off about that. And so, we just, if you do have students in that in that area that you don't feel belong in kind of your classroom, whatever else, then you are free to ask for a student ID to verify that they actually are students. What else to be said? There was talk that there actually is. I think when we talked earlier in our one of our meetings that there wasn't a written policy. He claims there was, and I can't remember, Doug, if you remember if he actually found that or not.
Yes, in our agenda, down at the very end of it, it says that children in the classroom, they did find it in a in the board policy manual, that FLB local, students' rights and responsibilities under student conduct, it says that there will be no children in the classroom.
Okay. Um, so Wallace did say, okay, yeah, because I got further on down here, he says that he would get that policy sent out to all of us, so we would have copies of that to review as needed, and we can enforce. He did say that, it is important that we kind of enforce this unilaterally. The fact is, if some people are allowing, non-students in their classrooms and others aren't, or whatever, then this could be problematic. So we really need to make sure that as a faculty, we really are making sure this is a priority for us, and um, because it can really cause some big problems if we're not, basically. So, um, let's see here. He talked about, they talked about SB 2972. And I'll include all of this in the minutes here. So, if you want to take notes, it's fine, but I'll include all this information in the minutes so you don't have to write or memorize everything I'm saying here. This Senate bill's got to do expression, yeah, limiting the ability to express public opinions on campus. Um, I think we got an email about this, I think a week or two ago. Does that sound right to anybody? Kind of talking about the designated areas on each campus where, public speaking about, various things can be discussed appropriately. So, um, some of the big things about this thing is there's no megaphones allowed. There can't be any public speaking the last weeks of class and on finals week. Specific areas, we've already talked about that. Um, you know, Legislation is currently trying to define what is and is not freedom of speech, basically. And then currently our admins up top are kind of working on this as well. And then the House actually created a committee to investigate free speech on college campuses. So this is a big issue that's being looked into statewide, pretty much. And then once again, NCTC is doing our best to comply to whatever laws are being kind of presented for us to the best of our ability, basically. Pardon me. Let's see here. We also there's a new chair and vice chair for the coordinating board. Wallace told us that these are political appointments. So take from that whatever you need to. Um, Dr. Wallace doesn't know either of these appointees here. But so he doesn't know anything about who they are, kind of, where they're coming from, or maybe what agendas they might have moving forward. But as he finds things out, I'm sure he'll share that with us. Let's see here. Since Title V was shut down, there's concerns about Trio being able to survive. And so, um, you know, that's not something that's happening right now, I don't think, but it is something they're concerned about, and they're kind of preparing for in some way, and kind of looking into. Um, One of the other big things going on right now is the split between the academic and technical programs out there. There seems to be a push that they want to have, community colleges be 50% academic, 50% technical schools. Um, but there is a committee kind of working on this. Wallace is on that committee, it sounds like. Um, yeah, and so they're looking at, I think they're going to be looking at current certificate programs, seeing which ones we actually need to keep, which ones basically. So this has all happened, I think, at the state level, as best I understand here. Let's see, a couple last things. I'll finish up pretty quick here. Organizational shifts. Um, we are very much a credit hour centric sort of model for reporting here. Um, we are looking at different ways to view that structure. Um, and so basically, once again, I mean, there's just a lot of things being called into question, these days. And so our current method for um, gauging students' involvement in the classroom is being kind of looked at. And so we at NCTC are starting to look into that well and see if there are other ways that we can kind of view students' progress and approach the classes. Um, uh, Libart's Dean search, so that is reopened now. And whoever will step in for that, this will be part of their jobs to help us kind of look into this as a possible change as moving forward inside here. He did say we're going to look at adjunct pay again next year, or this coming year. See what we can do to help them out. And then the final thing I've got to say here is he did say, I've never been to the board meetings before, so those of you that have probably have a bit more experience with this, but they're going to start dividing the board meeting up into two different parts. Apparently, one of the concerns was the fact that I guess as the board meeting went on, there were times they would step out to deal with kind of more private issues and then come back and then deal with the public issues, and they would kind of back and forth throughout the entire meeting. Instead, they said to block it off, and so they're going to have an early meeting at 5 p.m. for the more private issues and things that are not public, and then they'll have a 6 p.m. meeting for the stuff that is more public to help streamline that process a little bit, as I understand it. That's what I've got from that. So that, in a nutshell, is what we got from the uh, meeting with Dr. Wallace and Dr. King. Doug, anything inside there you think I've missed or need to clarify?
No, that's pretty much what I remember. I don't, I do know that children in the classroom was a big issue. So I think we do need to kind of be um, concerned about that. Make sure that you're taking care of business on that and based on insurance and that kind of stuff. So, okay. Next, we've got our safety and security training session that's been canceled a couple of times. We were supposed to have it on the 31st of October, and it didn't, we weren't able to have it then. So we're trying to push it based on the unavailability of our safety and security team to be able to do this, having all the people present. Try to do it maybe the spring semester. We're looking at maybe February the 20th as a possible date. I don't think I would write that down yet, but that's kind of something that we're looking into to see if it'll fit. Um, Again, that was going to be an active shooter training that we were trying to get set up. Um, as far as the behavioral intervention team, we were supposed to meet yesterday, and that meeting was canceled due to everybody thinks that we're doing good right now, and they're waiting for the hammer to fall, I guess, as far as students and things like that coming up with the holidays and the end of the semester and that kind of stuff. So, but things are going very well. And I did have one that I turned in, and I did get a report back from them that said that they had contacted my student and that kind of thing. So I was very pleased that our system seems to be working better with the BIT group. Um, for instructional council updates, the October meeting, we gave updates on the October meeting, and the November meeting has not happened yet. So October was covered in our October faculty senate meeting. So nothing new to report there. As far as executive committee updates, there was no meeting this month, so we have no updates there. There's a meeting scheduled for the 20th of November, so we will report on that in our December meeting. As far as current and ongoing issues, we have the constitutional amendments that we are trying to get through, and the committee has made an initial draft. We're going to try to clean it up and work to set up an appointment to meet with the lawyers and go over the edits and make sure before we present it to the group here and then on. So, Jeremy, do you want to say anything about that? I know you've been integral in preparing that.
Just as a reminder from last meeting, we had an initial draft, and then the lawyers for the college sent us a completely new constitution, and we've just been going through that because they had a lot of stuff that was not in SB 37. So it was a matter of figuring out what could we keep from the old one, what do we need to get rid of. But yeah, it's until we get the okay from the attorneys, it's better not to kind of speculate. But all of it is to put it in compliance with SB 37.
Thank you. Okay, so hopefully we'll get that done soon so that we can have a voting faculty senate. Um, the student handbook review, um, their next meeting is scheduled for the 13th of November. Um, and they're looking at any updates that the committee would like to report. I don't know who's on that committee. Would y'all?
I think I'm the only one here that's on that committee, Doug.
Good.
And I don't think we honestly have any updates at this moment.
Fantastic.
So we're just plugging away.
Okay. Well, as far as the textbook committee updates, we did have a little snafu in that some students who registered, but then opted out of the Barnes and Noble for the second 8 weeks, lost access to their materials for their 16-week classes. So the publisher had to go back in and issue new codes for those students in order for them to regain access. So we are still looking forward to getting all that lined out with this new system. The textbook committee and implementation team have not seen the student dashboard yet from Barnes and Noble. Administration has been, or the administration, we haven't heard anything from Barnes and Noble or the administration since early October. So we're looking for some clarity on what's going on with the textbook stuff. We do have Tamar Bell providing 2 OER and Barnes and Noble sessions next Friday, which would be the 14th of November, 9:30 to 11:30 on the Flower Mound campus in room 102. And we have the ability to register for that through the Bridge application. Session 1 is helping our students navigate the bookstore's inclusive access program. Okay, and that's for the OER base classes. And the session 2 is exploring artificial intelligence in the OER development. Okay, bookstore committee and the OER committee are going to work closely in the future to advocate for cost-effective options for our students. And then the last thing I had before we go to new issues was, again, children in the classroom. They did find that policy in the board manual. And as Jason said, Dr. Wallace said he would get copies of that out to us so that we'll all be on the same page with how that should handle things. Just before this meeting, I had a meeting with our in-service group, and they're pulling it together for the spring in-service. And the chair asked me to ask all of the senators if they had any specific requests that you think would be helpful. Dr. King has been very good about, if we have a request, trying to find somebody that could speak on that particular topic. So if anything comes to mind, please reach out to me or Jason or Misty, and we would be glad to get that to the committee so that they can try to make us a good in-service coming for the spring. So at this point, are there any new issues that we need to tackle? Anything that's burning?
I was just gonna, we had an OER meeting this morning.
Oh, thank you.
They did kind of show us a little glimpse of that dashboard, what it looks like in Barnes and Noble, and what it looks like when students opt out, because then it gives them an option to like shop for books outside of, the books. Anyway, so I think they're going to give us more information about that, but also I think more importantly, marketing. They're working with marketing to create some handouts to kind of explain the process more clearly for students and for faculty, because I'll be honest, I've heard several times the explanation and description, and I'm still a little confused on how this is supposed to work, especially with OER. So I think that will be helpful, and Elizabeth Abu is working on some of those materials for us, so we can kind of look for those.
Thank you, Kristen. Anybody got anything else?
I had one as well. It was a kind of a follow-up to something that Jason was talking about in terms of the updates from the chancellor. SB 2972 was the one that was limiting or discussing protest, and we did get an update on the free speech zones. And something that happened very recently is that there's currently ongoing litigation there. So a federal judge has paused some parts of that. So there are probably going to be some updates in terms if the appeal is successful. But I don't know if you guys noticed, the locations are a little different depending on what campus you're on that were designated. So a lot of them are flagpoles, but there was one very notable exception to that, and that was on the Denton campus. I don't think Denton has a flagpole, but
Mhm.
they have it inside in a very large lobby. And I'm on the Flower Mound campus, and if you've ever been around the flagpoles, I didn't have a measuring stick, but it's about 12 by 19 uh, or 12 by 15 paces, and I have fairly small feet. So it is not a very large space to engage in it, and it's behind the building, by the street, very busy, very noisy. Um, I don't think it's blocking egress and ingress or anything in this particular location, but it is these designated zones are not all created equally, especially if it's a really hot summer. Very easy to do, you know, expressive activity inside when it's air conditioned. Not as much in if it's out by a flagpole, if there, especially at a campus that doesn't have a lot of tree cover or shade around it. So there was that. The other concerns that I had, you know, were more about um, some of the content regarding that, but that is also subject to that legal challenge. So I'm going to reserve any other objections that I had there until we get any final rulings on that. But I was curious to know if any of you were looking at those changes and were interested in seeing if the faculty senate was interested in bringing up the subject and whether or not something we should pursue because faculty and students and staff are all covered by it.
Thank you, Jeremy. I think that's a good idea. And I haven't thought about it. I did see the differences in locations where free speech could occur. Um, and having my lab right outside that big lobby, it's, um, I was curious. I don't know that we've ever had anybody take advantage of the free speech since I've been at the Denton campus. Um, but I think it's something that we sure could look into.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else? Anything we need to bring up?
One thing real quick here. I have gotten behind with posting agendas and minutes for our meetings. I need to get caught up with that. So I will be working on think of that priority here in the next couple days and try to get those caught up as quick as I can for everybody. So I apologize for that oversight, but I'm working on getting it cleaned up for us.
Thank you, Jason. Well, okay, I don't think we've got anything else, so I hope y'all have a wonderful afternoon and a beautiful weekend, and we'll talk again next month.
Thank
Reach
you,
out
Doug.
if you have questions. Thank y'all. And Megan, I think you can shut us down.